time to proceed with voting if you need to. You see, some of you have already done it maybe, so it's okay, you know. Some of you not plan to go, but you may change your mind, you know. Apparently I heard all the voting station is actually quite unpacked. I mean, like quite loose, you know, so it will be quite quick actually. All right, that is the plan. So I will stop at 12 if we can, and if we as much as possible, I'll stop at 12. And if there's any leftover that I haven't covered, I will actually put up some recordings for it as well, because today's lecture is going to be highly affecting your assignments. I mean, your group project that you're going to do, the last group project that you're going to do for this particular course, you see. So we need to get it, we need to get the information across to you as much as possible, okay? And before we go any further, is there any problems with the previous classes? Like cost management, time management, are you guys proceeding with the assignment? Because I've spoken to Natia, she messaged me, or yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's sometimes the message is the few of you, so I haven't really got to know you guys very well, so I'm not sure who is who, but somebody messaged me and yeah, she's not coming. I think it's Natia. So both group project as in QM and PM. Both group project is due on the 11th midnight, okay, 11th of January. So you've got about 3 weeks from now to complete the group assignment. Okay.
This one is for both QM and PM, is it, Dr. Ting?
Yes, both QM and PM. So the group assignment, okay, with the private assignment, like the single assignment, individual assignment, 2 from PM, 2 from QM. That one you have to follow QM Dr. Shelley's timing, and Dr. Lee's time for your assignment will be around the end of the semester, which is next week or the week after. Okay, so you better check with her what is the time. She is the one that is going to collect the 2 assignments from you. Okay, cost and time.
Dr. Ting, I just want to confirm, because this one is a revised from the previous date. Is it for the group project?
Yeah, the group project previously is supposed to hand it in on the day, 31st. I mean, yeah, 31st, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I'll give you 11 day extra, but that is the most that I can give you, because I need to submit the marks to Dr. Ling by 13.
So PM also 11, QM also 11.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You understand, huh?
Because I need to revise my checklist.
6033 project. Okay, clear. That is QM. If you want to hand it in early, I have no objection. Please go ahead, okay? Okay, so same goes with this particular project on tendering. This is the group one, okay? For the individual assignment, I think Dr. Shelley one is QM. For individual assignment QM, you must follow strictly to Dr. Shelley's due date. Okay, don't change it yourself. So PM, you must follow Dr. Lee's date. This is on the individual assignment. Individual assignment for QM is actually some calculation from Dr. Shelley. I think there's 2 assignments with a lot of calculation. That one you have to finish it as soon as possible. You cannot drag everything to 11. I mean, I would not suggest that. So you must finish this individual assignments, whichever due date is due, you must finish it, okay? And then PM is time and cost, which I have been asking people to show me if you can, if you want. But so far, Dr. Lee and we have been trying to help, but no one really showed us anything, except for work breakdown by one of the group last week, but rest, nobody, you know, and somebody actually messaged me about the assignments, work breakdown, yeah, something like that. That's all, you know. So I mean, like, until now, if you guys are just doing work breakdown, then I'll be seriously concerned. Okay, so I mean that's what I would say. But I think if I'm not wrong with Dr. Lee time and cost assignment, it should be due within this 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, so you have to finish it as soon as possible. I mean, it's not a lot of work actually, and I actually allowed you guys to do group work together, but you just have to submit an individual one with your own name on it later on. Everybody must submit their own individual assignment, okay? 31st, yes. So 31st, you must submit it. Is that what Dr. Lee says?
It's in the paper, the question paper stated there
Okay.
for the individual.
Okay, that's fine. Then you must follow that. And I do not suggest any more extension from there because it's actually a pretty simple, I mean, it's a pretty simple assignment, which the information you'll be using to build up to your procurement assignment. I mean, procurement group project, okay? So no more extension from there, okay? I will let her know as well. So because we keep on giving extension, it's no use one. You know, it just makes you guys very unproductive in that sense. Okay, and the exam I've spoken to you all, the 2 papers from us will be on the 8th and the 9th, most likely take home exam. We will brief about exam on the last week, meaning on the 1st and 2nd, we will definitely go through even all the topics that will be on the exam, more or less giving you what is going to be on the exam paper, you know, close to what is going to be on the exam paper, and the format for exam and how you should submit and all that. We will go through that on the 1st and 2nd. Dr. Lee will go through it on the 1st with you for PM. Wrapping up session, okay, exam wrap up. Me, I will do it with you on the 2nd QM, okay, exam wrap up. Okay, so these 2 class, you wait for these 2 class. It will be, all the tips will be there, all your, how you're going to write, how you're going to hand in, all of that is going to be there, okay? And yes, and as we go along, assignments as well, we in the group project as well, you are free to ask me about QM, you're also free to ask me about PM as you see me, okay? This afternoon, you will have a class by Madam Rohaida on QM. There is a swap this week, only swap between Prof. Andrew and also Madam Rohaida. So Madam Rohaida will do from 2 to 5, and Prof. Andrew will do from 12 to 3. And 3 o'clock, Madam Rohaida will get your attendance and she will post up, she will arrange with you guys, she will post up some pre-recording, okay? So that is how we're going to do this week, right? Okay, next week is Christmas Day, okay? Christmas Day for PM class. So I believe some of you will be going to church, you know. What I will do is I will put up pre-recording for next week. Next week's recording is not going to be part of the project, so I'm not too worried, okay? And but this week I insist on doing a face-to-face with you. If we can't finish, we will add on a bit of recording, because this week is going to be what you're going to use for the assignment. I mean, I keep on using the word assignment. It should be project, okay? Project, group project, individual assignment, okay? Right. So any questions? This is housekeeping, okay? Right. Any questions? Adriel, Clarence, Anissa, Adri.
Okay.
Yeah, so far quite clear. Okay. Okay, so we've covered all that. Okay, right. And today is going to be on the topic of procurement. Okay, procurement, it is a very important topic. It is a very wide topic as well, and we've got to do it over 2 weeks, honestly. And in fact, this procurement, if the actual thing is supposed to come with contract administration as well. So we normally would have like procurement, and then we have contract, we have contract type, contract documents, and then we also have tendering sessions, and then we also have a session or two on the entire contract administration after the contract is being awarded. Procurement is just not about buying things. It's not about going out and say that, hey, I want to get a project. I have a project. I want it to be constructed. It's not as simple as that. And it's not as simple as procurement, your clerk in the office comparing quotes with quotes, those are procurement as well. But if we talk about the overview of procurement for us, it's actually quite a long stretch, you see. So because you all have a proper course on legal and contract, the 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks in the last, actually about 7 weeks, okay, towards the end of your legal and contract classes in next semester will be taken by myself. That is where we talk about different issues like extension of time, quality testings, workmanship, cost payments, EOT, LAD. So we will go through that in very, very careful sessions, each and every one of them. So it will take about 7 weeks. So that subject is going to come up next semester. So here we would not do any contract classes. Okay, we will not do any contract related classes. We will end with contract, and then you will be sitting for your contract next semester. Okay, so that is the whole stretch of procurement actually. So procurement management is actually like a framework to deliver the project. So basically, after scope management, you will start to understand what is your scope of work, okay? And from feasibility studies up to development of the design and all the way up to the go ahead. So at any point in time, when the project is on that green light of go ahead, whether it's during the conceptual, whether it's during the prelim, whether it's doing the option studies or viability studies, all these are tightly related to procurement. Because it's when the client says that, look, I like what I'm seeing. This is exactly what I want. I want to proceed with the project. That is the point that your procurement will start, you see. So your procurement process essentially start, and it's going to be strongly based on the scope that you design, okay? And in the early stages of procurement management, okay, I will mention this as I go along now. Okay, so these notes here, the first bit is to get you to understand. I know some of you are like, you've never heard about procurement. Some of you have, some of you don't, and you are very stressed out about the word procurement. Actually, it is not that difficult, okay? So it's about putting, acquiring. It's about acquiring. It's about buying. It's about sourcing. Okay, it's about sourcing for people, talent, materials, equipment, and technology. That will actually be put together in order for you to execute the project. Okay, and to finally, at the end of the day, deliver the product or deliver the project. It doesn't matter which industry you are in, project management, procurement management will apply. If you're in factory, when you're creating a product, purchasing that production line, building that production line, getting in people who can work, who can be trained to work on the procurement line, setting up quality manual, looking into the costing, scheduling of production. All this is part and parcel of delivering the final product. If you're talking about building an airplane, Boeing 747, it's the same thing. The material, the technology, the talent, how do you put all of them together? Putting all of them together will actually involve buying them or paying for it, you see. So this buying and paying for your talent, for your machine, for your material, and then bringing them back to your site or bringing back to your company to actually carry out the work, and then to pack and deliver and monitor the final product, testing and all that. This is an entire procurement processes, okay? It is actually the entire problem. As well as at the end of the day, something is delivered. Procurement process is the aim and objective is to deliver the product, deliver the project, bring about the realization of the project. So to do construction, you need to do procurement, okay? Because if you don't have a procurement process in place, you will not know how much to pay for your material, and where to get your material, when to deliver your material, when to put it on site, where to store it, and then how to use it. So all these are part and parcel. Some of it is quality, some of it is cost, some of it is scheduling, but these things are actually all tied in together. They are not an individual standalone. Dr. Lee will explain a lot more later on during the last class, whereby we're trying to let you see the tie-in between the different type of work that we are looking at. I mean, different type of management that we're looking at here, you see. So procurement is about that initial state, the processes, the framework of purchasing, framework of getting quotation, framework of selecting the right person to do the job, framework of selecting the right supplier, framework to get the right material at the right price and deliver at the right time. So this is a framework. It is talking about that framework. It can be an overall framework. It can be a component framework. So that overall framework will have the component framework. You will have material framework. You will have manpower framework. You will have the builder, the contractors, the suppliers, how we are going to deal with them, what sort of contract that we're going to give them, and when they can come and bid and tender for the project. These are all part and parcels of procurement. So it is a very strategic, you've got to arrange this, you've got to put it in place first before you actually go out and do it, you see. So it involves a lot of strategic alliances with many different parties in order for the procurement to be successful in delivering the end product at the end of the day. Okay, so everything there must be a framework. Okay, so in that sense, this is actually the whole phase of procurement. So we will go from what we call requirement cycle to requisition cycle to solicitation cycle to the award cycle and actually the contractual cycle. So this contractual cycle, we will end here in the award cycle. Contractual cycle is whereby you're doing contract administration with your quality monitoring, with your performance monitoring, with the cost control, with the schedule control, with the resources allocation, with your delivery of materials, whereby things are actually actively going on site, and then you've got to manage them. It is part of construction management. It is part of production management. It is part of project delivery, and most importantly, with all that, it is about contract management. You're managing the contract that you've originally set up at these earlier stages, pre-awarding. Okay, and what we're going to be covering today is actually the requirement cycle, the requisition cycle, and I cannot finish covering requisition cycle. I will only touch on requisition cycle, and then I will quickly move on to solicitation cycle. So I've got to come back. Supposed to be I'll be covering requirement cycle and requisition cycle with you, and a part of the requisition cycle I will finish covering next week with the solicitation cycle. That would be the actual flow of things. But I have to cover with you the solicitation cycle first for you to do your group project. Otherwise, next week will be absolutely too late for you to start on your group project. Okay. And yeah, that is very unfortunate. I mean, maybe in the future we will have time and cost as the project and the solicitation as an assignment. I mean, that would probably be a better way of going for it. Okay. But unfortunately, we've already put out all the proposal for assignments, and it's been moderated, and it's been checked and all that, and it's been filed and properly recorded. We cannot change anything now. Okay. Unfortunately. So we just got to adjust accordingly. Okay. So yeah, so there will be like a skipping of some of this thing here and then going straight to solicitation cycle so that you can start. Your project is on solicitation cycle. Okay, right. Okay. So basically, for procurement management, it involves, these are the things that it involves. It involves planning for purchasing, agreement, agree to purchase, confirm, then you plan to purchase, and then you plan your contracting. Your contracting means that you plan your contract documents, your contract clauses, and all that, and what type of contract that you're going to be using and embarking on with your suppliers or with your contractors, with your builders, and then after that, then you will, once that is ready, all the documentations are ready, the procurement methods are ready, the requisition cycles are ready, you will go for requesting sellers' response, selecting sellers. This too is under solicitation cycle, which is part and parcel of your group project. Okay, and these are just the idea of where your project is, your procurement is actually looking. This is our procurement processes normally. These are the typical things that we do, So we need to know what service or what product that you are defining, which is basically part of the scope management, and then how can the product be delivered. You need to look at the options of procurement. What are the relationship that you will be having, that you'll be creating with that options here that you select, and then after that, you are going to go and look into, once the project is defined, you define your project procurement strategy. Sorry, this part is about what options you have is buying, leasing, borrowing. There can be like a very wide strategy here. And then when we talk about procurement strategy, is whereby the project is already defined, is a go ahead that you're going to proceed with it, and then you're going to go for your seller, requesting the seller responses. It is tender. Normally in construction, we use the word tender. I think in a lot of industry also, they use the word tender and bidding as well. But some you may go for quotation, some you may go for proposal. And then after that, you will follow in and, select your supplier or your supplier of the goods and services, or the supplier of your contractors, who is also supplying the goods and services and the talent and all that to do the work. Okay, so then after that, this bit here, project implementation, is the part that you will be. This is on tender evaluation, and then this is a strategic review. So these are all the framework. This is to give you the idea, okay, to give you a good idea of what is project procurement framework. So again, what is planning to purchase, what is there to acquire. You know, this is very important because this is actually part and parcel of the scope management. Okay, then we are looking into plan contracting. I mean, you're planning your contracting. This is talking about getting all your documents ready, you know, putting up all your criteria, you know, and also to look into all the procurement strategies that are available. And then after that, you will be confirmed your requisition cycle over. I mean, your requisition cycle start on this. Once you know that you are purchasing, you are going into the requisition cycle. It's a start. It's like a fire lighted, you know, you are in your requisition cycle. And in your requisition cycle, you are actually going to plan for all these things, you know. And then in your solicitation cycles, you're going to be inviting people to be, you know, what are the way to invite, and which way is better to confirm on your tenderer, which way is better for you to confirm, how do you evaluate your quotation, your bids, your proposal. And then after that, you will be selecting them. It's the selection evaluation procedures. This part again is the same thing I've spoken about just now. It is part of the solicitation cycle. And then you're in contract administration, which I would say is not what we'll be covering in this particular course. This is talking about contract law, you know, you're talking about signing agreement. Once the agreement is awarded, you know, the work on site will be proceedings, and this is how you're going to be paying people according to the contract. It is also part of procurement, but it's under what we call contract administration. Okay, another definition here, you know, by another agency, same thing, you know, is about planning for procurement. This is about understanding your project, and then this is about requisition, getting a requisition started, you know, and then after that, this is about solicitation. This is about contract administration, and voila, finished. Okay, so this is something that you need to get that framework in your head. It's all about that thing. Procurement is all about that. You know, it's about understanding the project requirement, understanding the scope. Then it's go ahead. Once it's go ahead, you start your requisition. You need to know what sort of procurement strategies that you're going to go for. And then from there, you're going to move into talking about solicitation. Okay, and then awarding, and then finish up. Okay, so I mean, Clarence, are you okay? I mean, like, I know you were one of the person who is very, very worried about procurement. You spoke to Dr. Lee about that you don't have any experience in procurement, but there are many people here. In this particular course that they don't have working experience, and people such as, you know, I think is it Agri? You know, some of you are actually just like graduated from universities, and they are not even from civil engineering, whereby we do a proper project management class. Yes, so Agri is a freshie. So I'm pretty sure you probably have never heard of the word procurement before as well, isn't it, Agri? Have you ever done procurement before? Like, because I think if you do it with UNIMAS, we only have an engineering management subject, you know, and it's a faculty courses that is taken by the chemical, mechanical, and also EE engineers. And I think they generally don't go to that kind of level or that kind of depth, you know, with such a thing. But if you are in my classes in civil engineering, yes, we do talk about procurement. We even talk about contract and some portion of contract administration, but in a very quick manner, you know, in about 3 weeks' time kind of thing. So yes, and this is also appearing also in my Mang Civil master's classes. So don't be worried. I mean, I think after today, my explanation, you will probably feel like, okay, it's fine. It's not something that is so blur. And I think people like Adri also same boat as you, who has never have experience with procurement, who has never have any idea what on earth is procurement. Okay, so don't be so upset so early. Like I know parents was very stressed out 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago with procurement. You know, so yeah, I mean we will get there. Okay, and it's important for you to go through the notes as well, and also listen back to the recording if you do have any issues. Okay, right. So yeah, so we get the basic gist, the first 10 page of the notes, we get the gist of overall procurement framework. Okay, so now we will go into more details. Okay, we will go into more details on what are the different portions of procurement. Okay, and right at the moment, I think looking at the time that is available, I will touch on procurement strategy and then move on straight to tendering so that you can start on your project first. Okay. And this part two onwards is basically what is in every portion, in every section of the procurement management. Okay. So these are the details. Okay. So part two, start off with procurement planning. This is actually the requirement cycle. When you start a project, when you want to start a project, whether your procurement starts after conceptual studies or after final design, it doesn't matter. They are all going through the same processes. Whether it's earlier or later, they have to go through all these processes. The first is about requirement. You need to know your project. If you started it off after option studies and after conceptual, after option studies, before you go for your preliminary design, it doesn't matter. You will need, once if the client says, go ahead, I'm going to invest in this project, I'm going to be putting up money, and they will actually confirm on that, then you are the one that is going to go into to delve it deeper into the design and all that. And that is procurement starting, because when your client says go ahead, in fact, they are engaging you as a designer, or you as a design and build contractor, or you as a production or the factory or whatever to actually carry out this particular to produce this particular product. Okay, then it is about that relationship is starting already. Okay, and in the earlier part, the requisition cycle is all about relationship. It's all about understanding that relationship, what kind of relationship you have with your client. Okay, and it's not about good bad relationship. It's not about whether you have a good relationship, bad relationship. It's not about that. It's about how you are going to contract with one another. Is the legality of things that is that legal relationship that we're going to be looking at. Okay, and with that legal relationship, there are who is responsible for what, who is obligated to do something, and who has the right for certain items. And you need to understand that relationship in order to set up a proper contractual relationship. Okay, so in the requirement cycle, it's about you understanding the project. You understanding, if you are in the early stages of a conception, you need to understand the project environment, which I have spoken about in very great detail. Remember that circles that I've been always saying, that in the center of the circle, I think I will also say that in quality management. We also say this in one of the scope management. Yes, in this issue analysis and understanding of your project background and all that, and doing project environment. Again, you see the word project environment comes out because you need to understand where is the concept, where is your background, where is this going to be existing, what is this for, what is the aim and objective, what is your company's mission and vision in terms of quality, in terms of time, in terms of cost, and all that will form part and parcels of your procurement strategy later. This is the requirement cycle. if you do not understand what is your project all about, you're not going to be able to pick a good relationship, a good contractual relationship with your supplier, with your client, with yourself, or you are a contractor, you're going to be picking a relationship with, like you're going to have a relationship with the client and your designer. There is going to be a lot of legality involved here in procurement. So you need to understand, especially for people who are setting up that procurement management framework, okay, you will need to first and foremost understand the characteristic of the project, okay? And I will honestly tell you, in exam, we can ask you questions like this, like, okay, list down, in exam, we're not going to go for like, can you list down the list of characteristics? What is the consideration? It's not going to be a very theory kind of question. It's not something that you can just copy from the note and put it in the answer. What we're going to ask you is, with your project or with your product, okay, with your product or your project or your production line, in your industry, in your environment, in your work, pick something and explain project environment and project characteristic and how that will affect your selection of your tender strategies or the selection of your procurement strategies, you see. So you need to go from the perspective of your project. Okay, so there's no way that you can just copy and paste my, like just highlight this, and then put it in your exam answer script. Yes, you can use the word background, organization, policies, all these things. Yes, you can. You can, whether you've got in-house capacities, all these things is actually the answer, but you've got to explain it with respect to your project. So there's not much way that, even it's an open book take-home exam, you will find that there's no way of you can just take the whole paragraph and copy and paste and finish answering that question. So I need you all to be very, very mindful as we are going through the notes here. Okay, things are in your notes. Okay, things are in your notes. Like Natia like to ask me, I don't know how to write. Can you please tell me, give me samples. Like what you need to do is you need to read the notes. The notes are all here. These are the theory, and then after that we need to apply. So different industry has different kind of application in such a way. So you will have to base it on your own industry. Please be reminded, you're not in undergraduate studies whereby we are asking you discuss the project environment that will affect a project. The questions is not like that. See, if the questions is like that, yes, you can actually read through your notes and then put in the relevant information. But if the question is going to be about, select an industry with your own experience, explain a production of a product, based the characteristic, based, the selection of the procurement of the selected product or project, then apply how to apply project characteristic in the study. You see, so this is actually very application kind of question. Okay, so project environment is, you need to understand your project environment. You see, these are all about project environment. This is all about the project. So what are the definition, the requirement? You need to know what are the in-house capacities of your project. It's probably mentioned somewhere at the back here later on. Okay, so this whole set of notes here, up to like maybe, up to like 15, maybe page 20 or so, we are looking into the different components, the different characteristics of your project. First, you will look at the environment where your project is in. You see, your project is in which environment, like which authority will govern, what is the organization that you're in. So you see your project at the center once again, then you will have an external layer, like your external body skin, and that skin is usually based on your organization. If I were to draw something here, this will be overall, and then you will have something else inside here. Okay. Okay. So the middle circle here is about your project itself. This is your scope of work, what is the nitty-gritty details of your work. You need to build a drain, you need to build road, you need to build whatever you need to build or construct, you need to put it here. If you're putting in, oil and gas pipelines or the pipe, you need to construct the pipe, you need to weld the pipe. These are the project itself. So this is the part that you will see all your work breakdown structure coming in. So you see, you've got to understand this thing. You've got to know what is the scope of work for your project in the requirement cycle. What is the work that needs to be carried out? What is it that you need to build? You need to buy, you need to construct. You see, what is the what, that you need to answer here. This is the center circle is your project. And then the external, yes?
Dr. Ting, I have a question because let's say for manufacturing, normally, let's say if we do the calculation for the resource, because I was doing the resources. So normally for manufacturing, we want to get more with what we have now. So maximizing our resources. So let's say if we are doing a project that even though based on the calculation, because the calculation is based on the current production rate, but let's say if we review the current production rate, it is not to the maximum or still low in terms of utilization. Is it we can, even though we need more manpower, but we can say that we don't have to have a new headcount in because we're going to utilize the current headcount. Is that possible?
I don't really understand your question. How is that related to procurement? Sorry.
Sometimes for the procurement also not until to the procurement portion.
No, even if you're using I'm catching the gist. Okay, so basically when you plan, in your scope studies, in order to construct something, you need to manufacture something, correct? And then, so in the initial stage, it's just that circle here. You are in this circle, correct or not? And
Yes.
you know what you want to produce and what is the headcount and etc. etc. Even though you're saying that, I'm going to be utilizing the current manpower, you need to understand it within your current project. It is part of procurement as well. So it's not because you're using the current resources does not mean that you're not procuring.
Oh, it doesn't mean that procurement is something new. It's also you're using the current what we have.
You will define what you need, correct now. In procurement, we tell you in this requirement cycle, you need to know what you need. So first you need to know what to build, what to construct, right? And you understand? I read this part first.
Yeah.
You need to answer what is to build. So you are going to tell us what you are building. Okay, what you are constructing, or what production line are you constructing? A production line to produce this particular product. Okay, so this thing is maybe part of it is new thing. Part of it could be you are going to be utilizing the current in-house facilities, you see, or your in-house production line or your in-house people. Okay, but you need to know what is there that is required first. So first, in the requirement cycle, you will see that we will talk about mainly on what to build. So you will build up your work breakdown structure first on what are the things that you need to build, and then you will build it into the resources that you need, correct or not? And this is about what you need. It's not about what you have. Okay? We're not talking
Oh,
about what
okay.
you can have. We're talking about what you need. In order to complete this task, you need this workforce, you need these machineries, you need this material. Okay? So then from this center of understanding your project characteristic, what your resources needed, and how and what is the item that you are going to be constructed, that we are going to move out from this cycle now. Okay. As we move out from this cycle, the first layer of the scheme that we're talking about, the overall of this thing is your project environment. Overall project environment. This is your project environment. So the first environment that you'll be looking into is the environment that is closest to your project. That is your organization. Okay. So you need to understand what is your organization capacities and what is the financial, in cost management, we talk about, whether the project is, whether the company has the money to do it or not. Okay. And we also repeat that in scope management where we talk about financial viability. So again, in this first layer that you are looking at, inside here is what you need, it's what you need. Then outside here is you're looking at what your organization, first your organization can give you in that sense, okay? And you need to look at the management, what are the management aim and objectives and goals and mission and all that. Maybe you are suggesting something that is, coming from the flow upwards. So that will need approval from the management. And there are circumstances whereby you are asked because the management has already confirmed to invest in such a lines or such a project or such a product, So that is like a top down. Okay, then you are preparing the procurement. You see, this is a two-way thing. It is not like just one straight line with one method of doing things. Okay, so there are circumstances which I always feel like it's a very Asian kind of thing when things are top down. But with Western organization, many of their projects could be bottom up, meaning that the project team actually create ideas and going upwards, to the management to get approval. So you need to understand what are the management commitment, how keen, how eager, how much money they have, and then the other component that is very, very important in your project environment is also the in-house capacities. And when we talk about in-house capacities, we're talking about in-house, do you have the equipment? In-house, do you have the manpower? In-house, do you have the right resources to do this, you see? So, do you get me? I'm slowly trying to get, to answer your questions in that sense. Okay?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to match it with what we are having now, actually.
Yeah, and this is procurement. All these processes is procurement. It's not like when you go for tender and go out and get something, then procurement. I would think that is your confusion, isn't
Yeah, because in organization normally that is what procurement do. So the rest is actually done by let's say for our case is done by engineering. So procurement normally only getting all the tenders. So that's why initially I was a bit confused, but after you explained then I get it.
Yeah. So the whole entire procurement processes actually starts very early, even with the engineering team. So you all will mainly be in those sort of organization, I can see even in JKR the same, and in a lot of these SEB and all that, yeah, they have a procurement section per annum. And these procurement sections are generally dealing with contract and with tendering and all that. Okay. And that makes the engineering team feels like they have no part in the procurement processes. Actually, procurement processes, the engineering team and the earlier team are in the requirement and requisition cycle. when the engineering team give a confirmation, we want to have this, then it goes to the procurement, and that procurement is dealing with what we call the solicitation cycle. So actually, it's only in the request. I will show you my notes here. I mean, that will probably be a bit clearer. Okay. So the solicitation starts. When the solicitation starts, this is whereby most company, the one that you have in your organization, their procurement section starts. So you see, so that's why I think you are confused, because your job is limited to this solicitation processes starting, whereby when we talk about requisition cycle, let me scroll down the notes for you. So requisition cycle is where the formal process of procurement starts. Okay, so when you call for requisition, it's like engineering has already studied, the requirement, the design, even, sometimes, and then up to the point that when you say requisition starts, is the point that you will start to request for goods and services. So requisition cycle actually needs instruction from the earlier stages. So this is the part that your procurement is actually formally starting. Okay, it's formally starting whereby you're actually choosing the strategies of procurement, choosing the contract type and all that. And that part here can be done by yourself, okay, in the engineering team, or by the procurement section. So normally, just to let me know, when do you start normally? Adria,
Yes.
do you start from the, is your job more on the requirement cycle, or are you guys also involved in the requisition cycle?
More to the previous one. What is it now? The
Do you
requirement for the requirement.
do you get to determine the procurement strategies? Meaning that if you're going to go for design and build, or you're going to go for partnering, or if you're going to go for strategic alliancing, or you're going to go for more traditional general contracting, do you get to decide on that?
That one will be less, unless they are having issues. So we are more like we are giving what is the requirement that we need. So what is the design? What is the material we want? In terms of then the procurement team will look for the suppliers.
Right. So then, yes, so that means your organization, your procurement team will start from the requisition, meaning that you guys will, the engineering team will call for requisition, meaning that confirm you guys want this thing. Okay. So when
So
your
that meaning that they will not agree to a certain but they will not buy something that we will not agree to. They need to fulfill what is our requirement, then we can buy.
so the actual purchase and order is part of the actual process, and order is under the solicitation cycle already. This is the part that requisition is more on confirming on the strategy of procurement, meaning that what sort of contract that you're going to use, and what sort of strategies that you're going to go for. So maybe they would not involve you in this part. They will look at your requirement, and then from your requirement, they will take it and do their own strategies, unless they have problems, or they will go, unless they have problems, meaning that something cannot be fulfilled, then they will go back to you guys to look for alternative. Am I right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that means your part, you are in the requirement cycle. This cycle. Okay. It doesn't matter, but it is the entire part. The requirement is also the entire part of the procurement. Okay. So you cannot say that you are not involved in the procurement. All right. So here, your job, basically, you will look at your project, what is needed. So that is very, very center core of what your team will be looking at, you know, in the organization that you're working for. So you are in engineering, you are setting up all the specific designs, requirements, and all that, and what is there to build, and what is there to buy, and what material you need, and all that. So you've got to get that clear out first, okay? So in the requirement cycle, this is what we are doing. You see, this is a very, very main core of things. You don't talk about all sorts of things like tender and contract until you get this sorted out, okay? Then after that, in the second layer, we are looking at the organization itself. And in this organization itself, you've got to look at, you know, the organization itself, which means the relationship between the middle management, top management, like in this case, it's about your organization structure, like how your requirement will go to the requisition, which is in charge by the procurement team, you see. So that you need to understand. And yes, you do understand, you ask, and then you understand now. That is the relationship, that is the functional relationship. And then later on, who is going to be looking after the project? Is it going to be by you guys back again? Or is it going to be by the entire group of people? So you've got to understand this, you know, because if you don't understand this, that means you do not understand what is your organization capacities in handling this, you see. So in certain cases, the design may be outsourced because you don't have in your organization itself to do specific design, maybe a specific part, specific machine, or specific floor that has to come from German, for example. So that bit here, it has to be defined by you guys in the requirement team, you see, and in the engineering requirement team. So you see, you need to understand the management keenness on the project. You've got to understand very first and foremost also is the in-house capacities. Okay, and when we talk about in-house capacity, we're talking about what the organization owns, and you can have design talent. You know, one of these things later on will go back to you guys to do the design. You may not even have, you may have or you may not have the construction team to do it. So you may have to outsource again. And then you may have design or no design team, or you can outsource design, but your in-house people can monitor the construction, so you don't have to get outside engineer to do the monitoring of your production line. Do you have in-house capacity for certain technology that you may have to outsource it from other components of your company, such as from overseas or from another branch or from another a region, for example? Then this is about your organization. So you must understand that your project is actually sitting within this organization capacity. So without understanding the project itself, what is needed, it's very hard to judge the resources around it, you see. You need these resources. Here is about, in the center, is about you need these resources, you need this technology, you need this material, you need these people to build what, okay? Then you need to go out to the organization and check what is available, what are the in-house capacities that are available, what are the management what we call management commitment that are available. What are the there's another component here, the middle management, and also what are the organization set up in such a way that can support this particular requirement that you are having. these are all about requirement cycle. And then externally is even further talking about maybe policies, talking about authority, approval, from maybe the councils, even if you do a production line, I'm sure you need to have, external authority coming in, especially manufacturing. You'll be looking at what? DOE, correct or not? Do you look at DOE? I'm sure you do. Department of Environmental Engineering, or is it DOE Environment? Department of Environment, I think, or something like that. And then safety, I think maybe some of you will be dealing with DOSH as well. Okay. Environment a lot, because your factory will produce certain things that will actually affect the environment, and there need to be approval and checking and EMP monitoring and all that going on very frequently with certain products as well. Okay. And then they will have a say in your project later on. Later on, you may need to submit it to them for approval. Okay. And then you'll be looking into also the legal aspects, external legal aspects, because you are working in a very legal environment here, and you need to create a contract with your suppliers or with the contractors and all that. These are all what are the law of Malaysia governing all these things. So your procurement team must know all this, you see. If you are working in the procurement team, you've got to know all this as well. Okay. Then from there, set up the whole procurement strategies. So externally, you may also deal with other things like I don't know, traffic, geography. For civil, we deal a lot with that. We deal with logistics, we deal with geographical location, we deal with ground conditions. That is actually pretty much external. Some things that we really cannot control in that way. We will deal with heritage, we will deal with culture. We cannot tumbang some trees, in certain areas, because these are actually dealing with cultural or spiritual aspects of things, So we need to understand our project environment. So then you need to define your requirement, whether it's functional, whether it's a very specific requirement, whether it's a very general requirement, and these are the part that you also have to think about what is the constraint, you see. So when we look at project environment, whether it's an internal one, internal organization one, or the external outside background one, we are actually looking at the definition, whether it's going to affect the actual specific, it's going to affect the actual working of that construction, of actual working, the actual very practical action that will be part of the construction or part of the production, you see. Then you also look at the very functional, meaning that you're looking at different team of people dealing with it, and all that. So then you also look at the constraints. Some of these are actually very constraining. It may be the constraint, especially financial capacities, especially resources capacities, and then especially technology, scheduling. Is it an urgent product? Is it an urgent production line that needs to be constructed? Ethics, So you see, when you look at project environment, what I'm trying to say is, when you look at project environment, you are actually understanding what is the actual definition of that particular item in your requirement, in your environment, and then what is it? Is it legal? Is it legal means what? Is it going to affect the contract later? Is it going to be very affecting the functional, specific, or a very general level? Or is it going to be a constraint, meaning that it is going to stop the project from progressing further, if that particular things happen? All these things is about understanding your project environment, okay, your project requirement, your project characteristics. So you see, your project characteristic is that center. You must understand the characteristic of the project, and then must understand the project requirement. You know, requirement is also part of that characteristic. And then after that, you understand the project environment from the aspect of definition and constraints, you see? So it's like what you need versus what you have. Okay. So Adria, are we clear on this, Adria? I like it when you ask questions like this so that I can explain it better in terms of your industry. Otherwise, as usual, my mind will be pretty much, you know, still in the construction level, which I try to get out from, you see. And, you know, that is not applicable to everybody here. Edgar, anything you want me to discuss here?
Yes, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, okay. So you can see now where your actual position is, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. And you have to understand that, you know, I hope now that you have actually gone through this course, you have to understand that there is more to requirement cycle. It's not about just designing the designing the product, you know, or designing the production line, you know, designing the processes, correct or not? You got to think about before you pass this to your company, because the functional relationship is you do this and then you pass it to the procurement team, correct or not? Even though the procurement team is going to do the requisition and the solicitation, and you may not feel like you guys are involved in this particular section, but the information that you provide for them to do the solicitation and requisition is actually the most essential and the most core. You know, so do look into further than the design. You have to look into the constraints, you know, the project environment, the project requirement, and all this will actually, if you do it in a more concise manner, meaning that, you know, you go through it, you know, and explore a lot more, then you will find that the requisition bit, when you do call for requisition, it is going to be a lot more effective in that way.
I think in a way that actually for me, I've already been involved. It's just that when we go through this type of notes, it's the first time that I'm looking into the terms that we use. But when you describe the activity then when I think back, actually, I've already been involved for quite some time.
Yeah, it is true. But sometimes engineers also, some of you are maybe more constrained into the resources bit of things, but they're not into the money bit of things, you know. So
Some of the money also, actually, some of the money.
yeah, some of you are, some of you are not, because some of these money things are very much maybe you are involved in the cost analysis, like coming up with the costing and all that, but you're not involving in the financial reality studies, meaning that you probably have a CFO who will look into this, you see, in your organization. Like they will look at, okay, this is the amount of money that we need, whether it's viable, your company can have.
It should be maybe depending on the project size.
Yeah.
Because for some department, you have a certain fund that you have for per quarter that you need to spend.
I see. So that means, so that would, I mean, if you have that, that means you are involved in the viability, I mean, in the financial viability bit, you see? So whether you're going to be making money or not and all that. In some organization, I can see that, especially with the bigger construction, client and all that, so a lot of this are actually done by the CFO section. And when it's done by CFO, then those people, they are generally accountant, you see? And when you have accountant doing these things and via the engineering team who are actually understanding all the requirement and all that, there is also a gap, and there will also be some form of issues here by the financial studies are actually carried out in such a way that it's not related to engineering. And we do have a lot of issues on that as well. See, so the accountant will definitely go from the dollars and cents perspective, and they do not care about what the engineering team actually needs, you know, certain quality or certain procedures or certain technology, certain material. They find it too expensive and they just want to cut it out. See, because they just feel like it's not needed because it's not going to make any. They don't feel like it's going to make money. You see, so in terms of civil engineering, sometimes we have that kind of issues, especially if it's dealt by from a total different background, somebody from total different background like accounting. I'm not sure if you have that in your organization as a problem, you know? Okay. Right. So the notes here actually explain, you know, all this on constraints, you know, and definitions of your project. You know, you can define it from different level as well. Okay. And these are very important. And you know, we should add in things like the capacities, you know, in capacity. In-house capacity, sorry. So, okay, so you have to understand your project environment, and I think I've just put it this one here. So yeah, with the center being a project and all that. So this is actually the requirement cycle. So these are the things that we will look at the requirement cycle. So essentially, if I were to put it in a very, very simple one sentence way, is to understand what you are doing, what you are building, what you are constructing, and what you need. So project characteristic, okay, Adria and all the rest. Project characteristic is the what you need, your work breakdown structure, and what is the item that are needed, okay, to what are the item, what is the what, okay, that is a project characteristic versus, sorry, the project characteristic and the requirement. So the requirement is about what is it that you need, okay, to in order to do the what that you are setting up to do. So what is the project? What you need to do the project. Then versus what you have in the project environment, in your project organization, and what are the constraints, meaning that what are the things that you cannot change. Like example, ground condition, you cannot change. See? You have to go around it. In-house capacities is what you need. I mean, it's what you have. You need manpower, you need material, you need, the need is covered. You need to study the need. And that versus the project environment, what you have. And what you have, you also need to look at the constraint. And basically, you need to be able to define what you have, what you need very carefully. Okay. So in the requirement cycle, when we finish going through with the requirement cycle, you actually could do a very overall decision of whether you're going to make it in-house or whether you're going to outsource it. Okay. And most of this is not so simple also. It may sound like there's only two options here, make in-house or outsource, but there are many things that are going to be a combination of both. Meaning that part of it I will build myself, part of it I will go for contracting. Part of it I have it in my organization, like what Edgar you are saying, that you have the current manpower. So it's only through the understanding of your requirement cycle, you know that you have what? The in-house capacities. When you have a group of manpower that can actually do certain portion of the work in-house, you're not going to outsource, you see. But when you're going to do this thing in-house, it is procurement also. It does not mean that you're not going to spend other things as well on it. You know, just because you're getting your own man to build it, does not mean that you have not started procurement. Does not mean that there's no procurement here. you have to remember procurement at the end of the day, okay, is about the final product, being able to deliver that final product. All the making in-house, using your in-house people and all these sort of things are actually just very simply part and parcel processes of your procurement only. Okay, Adria, do you understand this, Adria? Just now you're asking me, or you have your own in-house people. I remember that question.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So using in-house is also procurement, yeah?
Okay, understand.
Okay, so that means manpower-wise, you're not going to outsource at all. But material, you may have to outsource, or even sometimes material, you have some leftover from the old project, you see? So you want to improve it. So that is outsourcing as well. Okay, you buy more to do it. You know, and there are always circumstances that you can actually buy off shelf, meaning that if this line is already somewhere else, that you can actually just use factory B or factory C or factory D, then you probably just kind of like buy off shelf in that sense. You know, you just go there and use it. You see, so that is also a strategy. That is part of procurement. That is part of your procurement strategies. Okay, right. So there are some notes here on what are the advantages or disadvantages of leasing, borrowing, and all that. That will all be part of understanding of your project requirement and your own project characteristic and all your organization environment. What is there that is available in-house for you to make a decision? There are, of course, you know, if you actually just make in-house, it's going to be a lot cheaper because you're going to be using the existing resources. If you outsource, then you need to let other people make profit as well. And then if you buy off shelf, then you may be having less capital expenses of creating a new line for that. You know, like let's say, you know, part of your product needs a screw, and then if you can outsource that screw, meaning that you buy off, you know, the outside there is something that is exactly of that measurement, so you don't have to produce it yourself. You just have to take it and put it, you know, like what is that word? Compile, not compile. Adapt into your product. Then why not? You know, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So let's go through these advantages and disadvantages. So now, after you've gone through that, you know, that decision of to outsource in-house, you are in fact at this point in time going to be what we say calling for requisition. Okay, if you're going to shift all your resources from the other parts of the company to do this, you're actually calling for requisition for your project. Okay, and this, if you're going for outsourcing, if you're going to be getting contractors or suppliers to do the work, you are going to call for requisition. When your engineering team call for requisition, and in the case of having a separate procurement team, you are actually passing the information to them to start the requisition cycle. And in the requisition cycle, okay, so this part here is the part, you know, the upper part one. These are all like what is the constraint and all that, you know. So then we finish it. Then now we're going to call for requisition. And in the requisition cycle, you have to understand the most basic thing is who is the client, who is the provider, or who is the customer here. Okay. Who is the provider or the supplier? Who is the customer? Who's the client? Who's the provider? Who is the who is the contractor or the builder? In the requisition cycle, we are generally going to talk about a few strategies. This is the part whereby traditionally we call it the procurement strategy. Procurement strategy can be in the form of, let me show you another notes. This is a set of notes that will explain procurement strategy in a lot more detail. Okay, so when you call for requisition, your team will start to look into the overall strategies that are required. And these overall strategies normally involve contractual relationship between the client, who is the client and who is a provider, that they will come together in all who is to provide what and who is to be responsible for what in order to come out and deliver that particular product. Okay, so your procurement strategy sometimes is half in-house, half outsourcing. So there are procurement strategies that is dealing with this sort of half-half or quarter and a three-quarter kind of thing. There are procurement strategies that is complete outsourcing. There are procurement strategies that are talking about outsourcing certain part like design and construction. Okay, and well, it doesn't matter. They are all strategies. So in terms of procurement strategies, you need to set it up first, because once you set it up, then different type of procurement strategies will actually match different type of project better. It will be able to deliver it better. Some project is really you cannot go for traditional general contracting. Some project you really cannot go for partnering. And that will also match with what type of contract that you're going to be embarking on and what type of solicitation cycle that is more suitable for your project. Okay? So in terms of procurement strategy, the most traditional one is to have the traditional general contracting, whereby the client body actually will outsource it to the entire project to a separate agency doing the constructing and also the design. Okay, so you may choose a designer to design your entire lines of production. Okay, whereby all your requirement cycle, all your items is going to be in your project brief. You're going to pass it to an external consultant to actually design it at a fees. Okay, and then you got to sign a contract, what we call a consultancy agreement with the particular consultant, and then in the consultancy agreement, would there be supervision? If there's no supervision, is it purely design? Then you're going to do it in-house. Your own people will look after it in-house in terms of the supervision. That is the model that they're going to go for. Then this is a procurement. This is a very traditional procurement strategy. Then after that, when the design is done, you're going to outsource it to a separate builder or a contractor or a provider. Again, these people, they are going to do the constructing. So you are not going to have, you're gonna internally have the capacities to actually look into their work supervision. Are you going to supervise? Is your engineering team able to supervise the service or the work that is going to be provided by your construction team? Well, we don't know. You know, because you have gone through the requirement cycle. You know what is available and what is not available. And there is some reason why you want to outsource, because some things are just not available in your organization. And there are certain things that, if you really don't have the manpower to do this, then you may want to outsource it to the consultant to do it. And the consultant will actually include supervision in their contract. That means that they will do the supervision for you. They will represent you to look after the project. So that is the very general strategy, and we call it traditional general contracting. You see this a lot in construction. You see this a lot in civil engineering. I'm not so sure how much you will see this in manufacturing. Okay, I'm pretty sure you also see this in oil and gas as well, in that sense. Okay, we don't know. Is it? So anyone wants to share? You from other industry, do you use these strategies a lot? Okay, never mind. Quiet. Zoom. All right. Yeah. So then we will also have some of the non-traditional ones, which is getting to be becoming very, very traditional. Like design and construct, or design and build. So design and build is it's getting so old that, you know, some people are actually putting it under traditional. Okay. The not so traditional ones are like maybe build own operate transfer. I'm not sure whether you all do that before. Partnering, I'm sure some manufacturing one will do a lot of this. You partner with certain company to do certain things, like maybe you partner with some electrical people to do certain things, mechanical especially, and then joint venture, meaning that, you know, when you want to build a production line, you have in-house capacity to do certain things. You have the land and you have the sources, you have the vendor, but you want to joint venture with a vendor, and that vendor will actually or, you know, you want to joint venture with a supplier, and the supplier will be talking about putting in their technology and the materials and their thing, you know, to put together. So that relationship becomes very different. So your supplier now becomes your partner, or your strategic alliance, or your joint venture. Joint venturer. Joint venturer is usually like one project by one project basis. You have a contract, how much you're providing, what you're providing, and then you come together over that vehicle of a joint venture, and then moving on to the further how to execute the project in a joint venture format. So, okay, I do not want to go too far into this. This one here, next week, I will provide a more specific, more detailed recordings on all the different type of procurement strategies that are available, and the advantages and disadvantages of all these strategies. And yeah, no matter what, okay, no matter what, these two set of the notes here this morning, you have to realize that part one here, we talk about all these non-traditional method, you know, and then basically this one you will refer to the other set. We also explain partnering, you know, and all this as well in more detail. I will explain it in the recording in more detail. Okay. And this strategy, remember, is a very initial. When you call for requisition, you need to look at all your requirements, the things that you produce from the requirement cycle, and then you will put it in here and you study it in detail. And then some of this strategy is actually better for your project characteristic or your project requirement cycle. Okay, the things that you produce from the requirement cycle. So in that requisition, when you plan for requisition, when you finish requirement, you're actually calling for requisition. And when you call for requisition, you are essentially, first, number one step is to confirm on the strategies that you are using. And that strategy will form the legal relationship between the client and also the vendor or the suppliers or the service provider or your contractor or your builder. Okay, and that is important. So once that is confirmed, there is going to be a various myriads of way for you to look into your contract type and also your solicitation cycle, because this is like playing a game of matching, you know, from matching A to B to C to D. So your procurement strategies need to match your contract type, needs to match your tendering type or your solicitation cycle. So when you match all these things together, that is also why we will have confidence that the item that we deliver at the end of the day is actually good, is actually less problematic. You will not have problem when you try to administer the contract, because everything is done in a well thought out manner. Okay, many things in constructions, a lot of time, especially in our industry, in my industry, they are very what we call very ad hoc, meaning that the client say that, oh, we want to use traditional general contracting, and then they didn't think much, you know, and then they will just say that I want to use lump sum contract, you know, and then they will go for open tender, because this is the most traditional way of doing things. Okay, fine, we do that. But if you do not understand the project characteristic, the project requirement from the requirement cycle, and you straight away call for traditional general contracting, and lump sum contract and open tender, it may end up that in the requirement cycle, actually some of the designs are not complete. It's not done. It may be that there may be problems in the technology that is available. You see, if you don't look at it carefully and straight away go for this sort of method, we will have a lot of problems, a lot of issues, and money spent on administering the contract. I have ridiculous contract that I've seen before that, they do not look into the requirement cycle. They straight away, without any study at all, they just plan for traditional, open, lump sum, contract, and voila, that's it. And at the end of the day, there are many components on site that cannot be constructed because the drawings are not ready. There's no roofing drawings, there's no AutoCAD drawing, there's no fencing drawings, there's no window and doors drawing. And all this needs to get the contractor to propose, you see, and propose and get separate designers to come in and do the proposing. I mean, it's going to be a whole mess. Okay, it's going to be a whole mess because how are you going to manage a lump sum contract when there's so many components that are not ready to be built because there's no design and there's no drawing to it? And you understand what I'm trying to say here? Okay, so it is so crazy. Actually, it's actually completely messy. At the end of the day, when you talk about this is a lump sum contract, and then you have a designer and a contractor in that model of traditional general contracting, whereby what they do is to build whatever you give them to build, and now you're getting them to propose, and propose is under variation. Is it under variation order? If it's a lump sum contract, how much variation can you do? You see, lump sum is usually everything inclusive already. So how are you going to pay or not pay for the things that are not being done in the drawings? You see, so these are what I call no procurement plan, no procurement strategies. It's just do whatever everybody is doing, and then it is not suitable for your project. It's just like I say that, go and get married, but then you never think about what you really want, and then your mom says get married, so you go and get married, and then at the end of the day, you have a partner that doesn't match. Same same kind of concept kind of thing, maybe a bit far off, but it's the gist, then you're gonna have the rest of the life suffering, and this is gonna have the rest of the project. All your contract administrator will be suffering with things like VOs, with things like documentation, with things like site proposal, approving proposal. Then time and cost will be wasted on this method. Okay, so procurement is actually part and parcel. Procurement is actually part and parcel of it's actually a whole entire picture of how the product can be delivered at the end of the day. And it is part and parcel of time, cost, quality, scope management as well. So all this needs to be coming together. So I do not want to go into further anymore on all the procurement strategies and the combination of procurement strategies with other things. Right? That bit of the notes is all about all these sort of different alternative procurement strategies, like partnering, venturing, and all. I will give you a specific set of recordings for this next week. Okay. Next week, I will do this together with contract type and how you match this with lump sum BQ cost reimbursable contract. And now with the little time that we have, let's move into tendering. Okay. So once you confirm on your requisition, you will start your solicitation process. Let me get the slide moving. So the solicitation is the basic starting. So these are the things that you guys are actually quite familiar with. Many of you have seen this and heard this before, I'm sure. Okay. And here, what we are doing is to understand the wordings better. Maybe some of you have never heard of solicitation before, but this is the part that with the information required and the strategy that is being set up in the requisition cycle, you're going to be preparing your documents for the solicitation cycles and send out the invitations for bidding, and then after that, getting back the proposal and selecting the right party to deliver the project. Solicitation is basically the part on confirming on the strategy of solicitation, confirming on the document for solicitation, and finally sending out and calling for tenderer, inviting them to come, then getting back all the quotations, bids or proposal, and then you select the solicitation cycle. So what is tender? So, well, tender is an offer, like if we open up for tendering, meaning that we are actually getting, you are actually outsourcing now. You're actually outsourcing to other parties to come and do your job. So the tender is actually an offer by the other party to do it over a certain period of time at a certain amount of money with the terms and conditions listed in that contract that you're going to embark onto later. So it's an offer. The offer, whether you accept the offer or not. Okay. So tendering is a part that this is just a very brief idea of where tendering comes in. It comes in after the design is undertaken or the project brief is set up. Again, like I said, tendering can be done very, very early, like even at conceptual or preliminary design, but the tendering method that you use will be very different. Okay, you may need to go for a very proposal sort of tendering method, or negotiated kind of tendering method, or you may have to go for selective tendering. So different type of tendering is at different stage of the project, is useful for different stage of the project. Okay, and then after that, the site is going to, select the contractor, and then after that, you're going to go on and, construct the thing and then hand over. So these are very minor things. So, okay, so tendering is about starting that relationship, starting to get that external people to come in, and when you do your outsourcing, your client and contractor, client, consultant, client, and main subcontractor also can, main contractor and subcontractor. So these are, these two sides of the relationship. Okay. So purpose of tendering, I think we're always talking about getting the best price, getting the best price, best value, and then getting the best quotation, getting the best designs, getting the best idea. These are trying to outsource what you don't have in your company. So tendering is a good way, because normally tendering is competitive. It's competitive. It's about few people coming in to give you quotations. It's about people competing to do your job for you. Okay, it's about people competing to do your job for you, and with competition is good. With competition, it's about who is more creative, who is cheaper, who is going to provide you with the best value, who is the most capable person to do the job for you. So is that kind of a way of client trying to find the best person to do the job for you. Okay. So read through this. I think these are very, very, very common things that you would see. I mean, that you can read through. It's very easy to understand. So what I'm going to go through with you is just basically different type of tendering model, different type of tendering method. Open tender is basically everybody can tender. Okay, you will put up a notice on the internet, or you can put out it on newspaper, like three languages: English, BM, and Chinese newspaper, and you will list down what sort of requirement of the contractor or the suppliers that you need. So you will attract interest from a very big number. So what you normally do is you will put down there what sort of license they need. That is needed. Maybe it's a Class A license or Class B and above, or supplier license. They must be able to supply certain things, chemical. They must have license and all that. So that will actually cut down on the number of people that can come in and actually, supply you with things or build you things. You see, so this advertisement can be in newspaper, it can be on internet, it can be in your company's bulletin board. It has to be usually open, has to be meaning that it's very transparent, it's actually out there. Many places, many people can see it, and they will come to you to actually get the documents from your company. So all your documents that you prepare during the solicitation cycles, they will actually read through it and then quote you and then bid for the project in a very fair manner, meaning that everybody get the same information. They quote in their own ways, and then you put it. They'll come back to you over a certain period of time, on certain days, at certain hours, and they will put in the tender. And then the tender is going to be a secret thing that you will keep, in a box until formally revealed to the tender evaluator. And then after that, you will select which contractor based on the evaluation that you are going to be putting up for the tenderer. It can be their financial capacities, it can be their manpower, it can be their talent in the company, it can be the engineers that they have or not have, it can be what sort of experiences they have, what sort of project they have handled before. So these are open tender. So open tender is that the beginning of how you get your needs to be out in the open and let everybody knows that, hey, I've got this thing here. Anyone wants to come and quote me. That is open tender. Okay? Right. Selective tendering is only you feel like this project that you have is actually very specific. It deals with very specific technologies, or it deals with very specific materials, or very specific techniques. So you do not want any Abu Ali to come and, mess up, and then you have like 20, 30 tenderers to go through their tender, and most of them are actually not qualified. Okay. So what you need to do is you can gain a list of pre-selected suppliers, or pre-selected contractors, or pre-selected service provider, and you can actually get it from your own company's approved list, or maybe you have consultant who is actually having this pre-approved. They know who is out there. You just have to get it from somewhere. This approved list, or list that that you commonly. These are the people that are good. So you can get it from your peers. You can get it from consultants that do the designs, or you can get it from the internal sources. I'm sure like company like Adria and JKI, they have a whole list of good contractors that for a good supplier service provider that you have in your pocket, and then you can actually dish it out anytime, anyway. So you select them, and then the rest of the procedures is like open tender. So you invite them first through letters, through emails, through phone calls, through confirmation, and then they want it or not, they will come and visit the site, or you can have a meeting, or you can have a tender briefing. Normally with selective tendering, we will have a tender briefing and then brief them on what we need and we want and all that. And then after that, move on and talk about the procedures of tendering, when they need to submit and how they need to submit, whether they need to submit schematic design or whether they need to submit drawings, and all that. So you brief them, and then they will do it. And then if they want to be involved, they will do it. If they don't want to be involved, they can say, "Oh, sorry, we are not joining." They have the right not to join. You don't have to. It's not about you selecting them, then they have to join. Okay. So you may pick like 16 or 5, 3 or 4 or 10. It depends on the size of the project. Like some project I see, they will select like maybe 16 or even 20, and then these people come, and then from there, they will actually filter off some. I'm sorry, that one is pre-qualification. Sorry. It's selective is basically you already confirm, like usually not more than 10, I would say. And then you send out invitation, and then come for tender briefing, and then they will submit their application or submit the tender at a later date. Then we also have another one that is called pre-qualification tender. Okay, pre-qualification, I didn't put it here, it's actually quite similar. So with selective tendering, you may do a pre-qualification, meaning that you invite like 20 people that you think may be qualified, and you get them to submit all their documents, like their company's capacities, like the financial bank statements and their project experiences, their staff list and all that. And then from there, you get them to come in with you do a tender briefing with them, and then some of them may quit themselves, some of them you will deselect, you will not select. for pre-qualification, and then from there you only choose like maybe 5 or 6 to go for this invitation or tender. Okay, so pre-qualification tendering, it is not selective tendering. Selective tendering is straight away you give them the item already if they want to be involved. You give them the documents already. Selective is they will submit some form of requirement from you first. Like I said, all the documents that you need from them, like bank statement, their machinery list, their staff list, their material, their experiences, their company profile even, and then you select first that you think is pre-qualified, and then you bring them in, and then you invite them for tender. So that is selective tendering. So with negotiated tendering, you will basically just select 1 or 2 or 3 suppliers and negotiate with them on the contract or the scope, or you get them to quote first, and then they will come back and they will just negotiate based on this 1 or 2 or 3, maximum 3 person. Normally it's just 1 or 2 person. Sometimes in a lot of cases can be just 1 person because they're so specialized anyway. So it's a bit hard to get more than 2 or 3 in the industry to actually negotiate with them. Okay, so again, negotiation tendering is also you invite 1 or 2 or 3 guys, and then they will come and they will look into the scope of work, and you will actually give them a document, they will quote, they will bid, and then from there you negotiate. You don't really select. There is not much of a choice. Basically, negotiating is more on the pricing, on the scope of work that you want it to be involved, them to be involved in, and all that. So there is not so much of like whose is better, whose price is better, and all that. So I guess negotiated is very close door. Okay, it's very close door. It's usually for very specific type of project. So if your project characteristic needs negotiated tendering, then it better be negotiated tendering. Okay? And don't go for open tender whereby you know that, even if 50 people comes, only 1 or 2 are qualified, then you don't want to waste time like that. Okay? Serial tendering, some of your company may do serial tendering. You may have a series of projects. So you will do serial tendering, meaning that, this project, the one that you get is going to do a serial of work, you see. So again, this is going to be a very longer term kind of relationship, whereby you may want to use things like partnering and strategic alliances as a procurement strategies when you match it with things like serial tendering. Okay, so you do have these are sometimes also for I normally in construction we do serial tendering normally if you have many phases that is ongoing, and then you do not want to do open tender for every single phase. Okay, so you may do serial tendering for that, or you may do a serial tendering for minor quotation for minor works, meaning that you give this for operation and maintenance. So the tendering will be more on the value of the material, value of the work, doing certain items at certain price. So whenever you call these people to come in, aircon, so they will come in and do the aircon. And then 2 months down the track, you call them in, they will do another aircon, and then or they will change another light bulb, or clean the office. It can be a serial tendering for office cleaning. So they will do the same work over a long period of time. Okay, so this will be maybe, like I said, better for things like partnering with this sort of suppliers. So serial tendering is mainly on the work, on the rates that you will want to keep that rate for long term, for example. Okay. Okay, single stage, 2 stage, I think mainly is on pre-qualified. Sometimes we do have single stage, meaning that you just open tender and then do it tendering and then finish up. Or you may have pre-qualified with selective, or you may have pre-qualified with negotiated, or you may have selective tendering with negotiated. You get what I mean? So you can have single or two-stage tendering. Okay. All right. So this is what we are mainly talking about for tendering. So for your assignment, for your project, you need to look at, describe your project characteristic, understand the requirement cycle. So what you need to do is go and do your requirement cycle, finish up your requirement cycle, and show me what is in your requirement cycle, and then pick a tendering model, which I have spoken about just now. So we're going to skip all the thing on procurement strategies, and also, yeah, I actually specify procurement strategies. I don't think I specify procurement strategies. So there's nothing on procurement strategies or contract type. It's just going to go straight to tender, pick a tender method, okay, that you want to use, whether you're going to go for two-stage or single, or whether you want to combine selective with pre-qualification, or you're going to go for pre-qualification with negotiated, or you want to go for serial tendering. Maybe like Adria, your work may be serial tendering, I don't know. You can actually go for open tender. Some of the work that, people in the construction will probably go for open tender, like Anisha, they all may go for open tender with Natia for your project. You can do that, okay? You absolutely can do that. So you will select based on your with your requirement cycle, and you call for requisition. And then I'm not going to cover anything in the requisition, talking about the contract type and also the strategies for procurement, which I will give you in recording next week. Okay. So from the requirement cycle, you go straight to the solicitation cycle. With the information that you have in the requirement cycle, I need you to compile that requirement, like the drawings, the requirement and all that of the project, the characteristic of the project. It can be in the form of drawing, specification, manual, or whatever that you have to describe the project, and then to look into the project environment. You write about project environment, organization environment, and all that in different sections, and then that is a requirement, and explain to me that why this project needs open tendering, why this project needs selective tendering, and you describe the tendering advantages, the disadvantages of that particular tendering model that you choose, and then you will basically talk about the process, this tendering process, meaning that once you've chosen the tender method, you will talk about this bit here, this bit here on tender preparation, what you're going to be doing for your tendering preparation, and then what will you be calling for tender meetings, explanation on tender inquiries. Let the tenderer inquire about the project and talk about, ask for information and all that, and then prepare how you're going to evaluate the tender. And inside this, you will also put down when you're going to submit and how you're going to submit, when is the closing date. Basically, you will just give information. I am not going to be asking you to write 50 pages on all these things. It's just basically you have to cover all these items. But I do want to see, where your whole process is about, what your entire process is all about, and then how you evaluate your tender. And this is the part that I want to see a bit more write up on, what criteria are you selecting, how you're going to analyze your tender, and then how you're going to do, which tenderer that you will select, based on what kind of criteria. Okay. So this bit here, the second stage here, tender preparation, I just need you to talk about what documents that you want to prepare, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the method that you want to use, and what are the documents that you'll be preparing. And then part and parcel of it is like drawing specifications. You explain, preparing these drawings, these specifications, and this data, this detail, this summary of tender. You know, these are the documents that you'll be preparing, and then you call for tender. How you're going to call for tender? You know, if you're going to open tendering, the way that you call for tender is different from the selective tendering and open tendering. So you may want to create selective tendering. You'll be creating letters. You send out letters to your, to your tenderers, for example, and then they will invite them, and then you will go for meeting. You know, you describe the whole process. Is that doable, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. So that will be the procurement plan that we are looking at. Okay, so skip all the procurement strategies, skip all the contract type. We have not covered that. I'm getting you to concentrate fully on tendering. Okay. And the rest of the notes here also is a description of how we invite tenderers, and you can base it on this. Okay. Here, definitely I've gone through many things like how to prepare, then approve tender, like we push tendering method. And then these are the documents that are required in the stage 3. What are the content? And then what are the tender documents? Now, how do you do invitation? Okay, open, selective tendering. So all this is in the notes already. So if you go through the notes carefully, I think we can actually complete the assignment. Okay. And even like tender notice, you want to put up notice, so you want to, what sort of information that you must put in your notice. Okay, and the sales of tender document is basically the document comes, like you want the supplier to pay for the documents because it takes money to prepare the document. And then what are the requirements inside the sales of the tender document? If you pick up, it's 150. If you return it, it's $50 back. Things like that. And then if you win the tender, you're not going to get the money back. These are what we normally will state in the sales of the tender document. What are we will sometimes call for tender deposits, meaning that if you have to furnish some money first before, if you want to bid for the tender, you want them to put in some money first, okay? It works, for commitment's sake kind of thing, and how do you want them to respond? And how do you want, when is tender open, where you're going to drop the box, where you're going to drop the tender, where you're going to, all the procedures basically, where you're going to drop the tender, when is it going to open, what information on the tender document, how must you seal it, what sort of information must you put on the envelope, some information you cannot put, like if it's a very open tender, normally we do not let the tenderer put any information on the envelope. It's just going to be an envelope that is kosong, and chopped. Like seal up, that's all. And then, because we do not want the people on the front desk to be, seeing that, oh, this guy put in the document, and then they start to call the other person and say that, oh, you should put it in or you should not put it in, it's like that, like, oh, it's hanky-panky. So it's a very fair kind of systems that we are going for when it comes to tendering. Okay, then we process the tender. This is the part that you need to know which report that you are going to go for, Okay, so what evaluation criteria, which tenderers are the one that you will choose, the evaluation, is it based on the price, performance, the resource availability. You evaluate and then you confirm on the final tenderer that you will come in and do the tender. Okay, and then you give them the letter of intent. Letter of intent is basically telling them that we intend to give you a project, but it's not legally binding. And then later on, when the is fully accepted, we call it letter of award or letter of acceptance. Then this is the legally binding document. Okay. And last stage is award. Okay. So I think this is very quick run throughs for you to start your project. Okay. So anything that is not that I want to be more specific on, I will put it in the recording as well for you to take sound of it. Like for you to listen to it and see how you go. Okay, so do you think you can proceed with the project now? I think with this set of notes, you should be able to proceed with your project already. Okay, like I said, next week is pre-recorded. It's going to be fully on procurement strategies, design and build, design and build, what is design and build, what is project alliancing, strategic alliancing, that sort of things. And then contract type, what sort of contract? Is it lump sum contract, BQ contract, cost reimbursable contract, guarantee maximum price contract? So those are going to be covered fully in next week's pre-recording. Okay, and on this week is mainly on requirement cycle and solicitation cycle for you to start your assignment. Any questions? Anything that you want me to explain a bit more on the assignment? Anything, anyone? Clarence, Anisha, Adria, Adri? Okay, this is your procurement assignment. Okay, this is your procurement assignment. Basically, we are needing you to do in a group of 2 or 3, you will discuss your requirement cycle, okay? And get all your requirement out, write up, all done first, which I think you have already more or less got it, but it's just to expand it into whatever we've gone through with project constraints, with project environment, drawing that box with 2 circles inside there and explaining what sort of project requirement that you're looking at, okay? And I think this bit here, I cannot strike it out anymore, okay? I mean, I cannot change this, but I am striking this out for you to see. So what you need to do now, after you get your requirement cycles ready, just look at the tendering mode that you think is the best suited, and then tell me why you want to use that tendering model, and then describe that particular tendering model, the procedures that you will set up, okay? The procedures that you will set up for your tendering process, okay? Part of the tendering document, you will have a BQ of the work that you are requiring. And this one here is basically what you have already done in your cost management. You understand? So whatever costing work that you've done in your cost management, that table that you will draw, in order to calculate your cost, you will simplify that and do up a BQ, a bill of quantity, meaning that you will do a schedule, another simpler table. That table that you have a manpower, resources, all this is very complicated. All I need to know for this tendering document is your tender, your work breakdown, and then your BQ. BQ means that the description of the work, your work breakdown plus the work number. I mean, you just treat it like you are actually submitting the tender yourself, okay? Just put that numbers down, it's okay. By right, you're not supposed to put the numbers down. You're just going to do the BQ, and then the other party who is quoting will fill out the rate. So you put down the quantity and then the rate. Okay, if you don't want to put down the rate, I think that's fine as well. Okay, so basically in the requirement cycle, you just have to say that the budget for your project is what you have gotten from your costing work. Okay, in your assignment 2, right? So then after that, the document, you have your views of quantity, you will write that you will have specification, what sort of specification, what are standards that you'll be using, and then you talk about the drawings. You probably will furnish some drawings inside there, and then talk about the tender documents. You know, like remember I had a slide here just now. It's based on this particular process, that this one here, okay? So all your tender documentation, what is in your tender documentation, what is part and parcels of the tender documentations, you know, and then talk about the tender process. You talk about it in terms of the tender process. So basically, from the part 1, you discuss about the model, which one is selected, and after that, you talk. When you finish talking in that section, you move on to talk about tender procedures, and that procedures include preparation of the tender documents, which has a BQ, has the specification, the drawing, or whatever that you need for the tenderer to fill out. You list it down, or you describe it, list it down and describe it a little bit, and then you will provide a section there that will let the tenderer fill. We call it summary of tender. So it's like a different parts of the work. How much are they quoting? They will be filling it up, so you don't have to fill. And then the next part is you will prepare the tender requirement. See, this is the part that we're talking about here. This part, you will talk about what are the requirements, what are the closing time, the location, what are the documents that they have to provide, and etc., and how are they going to put it together, and then send it in. So then how you invite also, you'll be describing it as well. How you invite, okay, ladies and gentlemen, is it going to be by open? Is it going to be by selective? So this requirement that you put down. Then finally, you create a weighting system. This is the second bit here. The third bit here. Oh, my tongue is very twisted this morning. I probably haven't drank enough water or something. I'm just okay, saying all the wrong words. Okay, then yeah. Then this is how you analyze. This bit here, I want you to be more detailed. You need to tell me what are the selection criteria, what are the way that you do the counting, you know, and what are the weightage. You can create your own. You can borrow from your organization if you have to. Some of you probably have a lot of this information already in your organization. You can get it from your procurement section. Yeah, and then put it together. That's fine. You know, we just have to let you know these are the process. No matter which tendering model you go for, these are more or less the process that you will be using for your general solicitation cycle. Okay? So that is your project assignment. So group project. And I say I cut out this one already, huh? So I won't change it I will not change it in the document itself on eLeak, but here, if you listen to the recording, and those people who are not here and they haven't listened to the recording, the contract mode is taken out already. I won't ask you to talk about lump sum, BQ, and all that. It's BQ contract. No more. I think it's enough for you to do this. Okay? If there's no more question, we'll call it a day. Okay, so I will see if there's anything I want to supplement on the tender recording. Maybe another 2 or 3 recording if I feel like you may be confused, or anything that you feel like you need me to go into more. You can message me, then I can actually do up another few recordings to explain this a little bit better. Then I'll put it up online maybe by Monday. Okay. So requirement cycle, I've gone through in many details, very, very clear already. I've touched on the requisition cycle, so you don't worry about requisition cycle for now. Go straight to delve in the solicitation cycle now for your project first. Well, I think that's all. Still the four of you, so no need to go back to QR code. Anything else you want me to clarify? Adri, you're okay? Adri, you're okay? Anisha, you okay, Anisha? Clarence, you're okay? All right, so I think we'll call it a day, and happy voting. If you're going to vote, you have 2 hours, basically. Okay, all the best. Yeah, you're okay, you, when you listen, I think, yeah, I know some of you are trying to relate that to your work.
Trying to relate, that one is the challenge.
Yes, very good, because the more you relate, the more useful this sort of course will be. Otherwise, it will just be another theory course, kind of thing. Yeah. And the most important thing is my course, I really want to make it practical. Okay, like QM is the same, PM is the same. You need to know how to apply. Right.
Okay, thank you.
So just remember, requirement, requisition, solicitation. Okay. Okay. Bye bye. Have a good day.
Bye.